Everybody, this is Devin with Writing Daily, episode 100. That is 100. In a short amount of time, I did a truckload of podcasts covering the gamut of the writer's life, how we do it, everything from sort of like systematic understanding of how to write and craft sentences to how to put yourself out there. And by the way, if you don't know, my name is Devin Galaudet. I'm the editor-in-chief of In the Know Traveler, and I am also the author of the forthcoming memoir, 10,000 Miles with My Dead Father's Ashes. And yes, totally, this is episode 100. If you like what I'm doing, please consider hitting the like button or asking a question, whether you are watching me live or whether you are seeing this as replay on iTunes or Stitcher or Google Play or YouTube or one of the many other things where this kind of gets repurposed and resubmitted. Karen, Lena, Lynn, and Tina, welcome. It's wonderful to have you here. So anyway, as I was kind of writing in my little episode notes, this is one of those days where nothing is working out, but not in a terrible way. So first off, I was supposed to I was actually supposed to have my publisher on today for our 100th episode. That totally didn't pan out. Honestly, I dropped the ball on that. I wrote him, haven't heard back from him, and the show must go on. Jane, welcome. Sandy, welcome. And so, I didn't hear back from him, and I realized that it's not a personal thing. It's not something that is being done to me. It's just kind of, it's sort of what it is. He's publishing 25 books every 6 months. That is an amazing feat as far as I'm concerned. And it is it's an exciting process to be part of this book making, book selling, finished your writing kind of exercise. And that's kind of what this podcast is all about. So on top of that, I was supposed to be, Sandy, hi buddy, back at you. And so what was also supposed to happen today, I was supposed to be interviewed by a show. And this is kind of an ongoing little event that we've been having, where I reached out to this woman and she wrote me back, and eventually it's, we keep having these sort of technical failures. Anyway, I was supposed to be on today, and the time that we were supposed to get together, it just never panned out. And here's the important thing that I can take away from this thing is that it's not personal. I don't know why it didn't happen. Maybe she just forgot, but I would have a second problem. Like, I think at some point I'll probably hear from her and she'll go, oh my gosh, I totally forgot, or this other thing happened, or some series of things happens. Whatever the reason is, I think at some point we'll get together and I will be interviewed by her and it'll be a total thumbs up. But for me to take that feeling and those things, and by the way, hello, Nancy and Colin, I would have a second problem. So all I have to do now is reschedule at some point or embrace the fact that it's not the right matchup or whatever. I think it'll ultimately pan out. But for me to be upset, take it personally, just means it's a whole series of things that I could be taking personal that just, it's what it is, I know that's kind of an oversimplification, but I think it's an important, crucial bit of information we have to take in our writer's life. Like, somehow I've put together 100 episodes. I don't know if they're any good, but we talk about writing, and I've gotten a ton of personal letters from people who like what I'm doing. And by the way, if that's one of you, please consider hitting the like button right now. That would make my day brighter. It would also let me know that I'm along the right path. So for the most part, as you guys know, part of what I do here is I'm documenting the things that I'm attempting to do to sell as many books as possible and get my story of 10,000 Miles out into the ears and to the faces of as many human beings as possible. So the upside is that I have the world is my oyster in terms of whatever that looks like. The downside is nobody has perfected how to do that. I don't care what anybody says. I've already explored many, many avenues. Here's the real answer, is that it's going to be 2 steps forward and frequently 2 steps back, or 1 step back, or a step and 3/4 back. And I'm going to keep evening out unless I keep taking action. So for me to get ahead of the game, I'm going to have to continuously do something that puts this out there into the universe. So I'm going to keep making shows. I'm going to keep doing the things that I think are going to hopefully find my right audience for my book, because I spent a lot of time writing it. It's a great book, no question about it. My publisher loves it. This is a big thumbs up. And at the same time, people aren't going to magically find out about it. And by the way, Cicely, welcome. Melinda, welcome. Rose, welcome. Rangi, welcome. And Max, welcome. I'm so glad you guys are all here. And so what it comes down to is that when you're putting together a book, the kind of thing that I did, I'm competing with Mark Twain. I'm competing with 150 years of great writing. And so what that means is I have to keep doing something. I have to keep being busy to attempt to put it out there. So even though my publisher couldn't make it today for whatever reason, the interview I was supposed to be interviewed on this woman's show today, it didn't work out. And it's fine. Really, it's like these are the things that we have to roll with it in order to live this kind of life, because sometimes it's totally going to go our way. And sometimes it's totally going to be this easy process where it's just things fall in our laps. But more often than not, there's going to be a whole slew of failures attached at every get-go. And by the way, this is absolutely true with my website, In the No Traveler. There have been some major ups and downs and learning processes, and people didn't call me back, and people didn't show up on interviews, and things got canceled at the last second. And all of that stuff that happened to me is like, at some point, like I think in the beginning, like 15 years ago, 17 years ago, when people didn't kind of do what I expected them to do, I took it like, oh, you're slighting me. And that's not the case. Even if they flat forgot, like whatever. It's people's lives get busy. I am not necessarily, like other than my wife, my mother, and maybe my kid, other than that, it's just like, I'm somewhere in the mix of the many priorities that people have in their daily lives. So my job as a writer and as somebody with a great story to tell has to keep starting from a certain square one of, for me to do well, I have to make it my responsibility to continuously do this thing over and over and over and over again. And nobody owes me a purchase of my book. So what that means is I have to keep putting it out there so the right people find my story, right? That's what it is. So whether or not my interview ever happens, whether or not my publisher can make the time to show up, I think, again, eventually he's going to totally be here because I know that he's on my team. Eventually I'm going to appear on that show today that didn't happen. And there's going to be other shows that don't work out for one of a variety of reasons that will probably pan out. And ironically, as I was kind of waiting for the call of the person that I was supposed to be on show up, somebody else wrote me and said, hey, we need X, Y, and Z from you right now to confirm that you are on our show that's going to be coming up in September. So one door closes, one door opens, and sometimes the door that you think is supposed to be wide open closes, and sometimes it just opens later on in this point. It's some point later on in your life. By the way, Morgana, welcome. Elizabeth, glad to have you here. And as always, make sure that you consider hitting the like button. That is always appreciated, or the wow button, or please consider sharing or whatever. If not, if you are a writer, keep showing up, because this is where the rubber meets the road. And I think sort of like living the writer's life is just living any writer's thing. The point, Max, is this, is that you can't let minor inconveniences and things that we expect happen don't happen. We can't take it personally. Our job is to keep taking action. In other words, like within the No Traveler, when I started that 15 years ago, and ironically, the guy who asked this question, Max, I'm a total rambler. But so Max, the point is that we keep taking action regardless of the obstacles that show up. If you want it, like I guarantee you, Max would probably be more concise than I would on this point, is that we keep taking these actions regardless of how many obstacles we get put before us. And my experience as now promoting my book has been an endless series of like, we're really close, and it doesn't quite pan out. And that's fine, because I've had tons of other small successes and doors open. As a matter of fact, when I was doing the dishes right before this podcast, is that I went ahead and started writing down some new ideas for an avenue I hadn't thought of before. And I think if I was sitting in a room feeling bad for myself because I didn't get the interview that I was expecting, then I would have been wasting my time and perhaps blown up my whole day. Instead, I decided to join you guys, and hopefully I have a little bit of inspiration for you to kind of go after whatever it is that your dream is, whatever it is that you need to make happen today. So anyway, that's what I've got for today, for this episode, our 100th episode of Writing Daily. I'm going to be back again tomorrow with some other interviews and some other fun things. Anyway, that's it for today. Thank you very much for joining us, and I will look forward to seeing you guys all again tomorrow. Oh, and by the way, as always, feel free to subscribe to iTunes, like this page, leave reviews, do all that stuff. Even if I ramble, let me know. I'll try to cut it out. And that's what I've got for today. Thanks so much for being here.